Okay, so quick video. Maybe not that quick, I don't know. Maybe I will talk as fast as a manic because that's something a manic would do. And this morning the theme has been state change because I was in one space in my mind, and then with a little bit of coffee and I went into my song list on my iPhone, and then I just went scroll like that, and it was just going like that, and I put my finger on it, and it was Ace of Base, and it was their newer-ish CD, and for some reason Ace of Base makes me feel really happy and kind of manic. And I remember buying that CD and then ending up in the hospital a little while later, and I felt like the songs on there really resonated with me. There's one about going to California, and then I did end up going to California. So their music is just on my wavelength. It's kind of fun and silly. And the other thing that might have changed my state a little is I was wearing these shorts while I was drying my hair, and these are shorts that I found the very first time I was manic on the ground, and I kept them. Just simple Adidas shorts. And I was singing to Ace of Base too, and it feels like ever since I talked to a friend of mine a few days ago by Skype, and we were talking about how when we interact with people, there's a possibility of passing on our gift and passing on some beauty or something. And ever since then, I feel like I've been able to sing slightly better. I don't know if it's true. And also, I feel like this sore throat that I've had, and it's still going on, actually is the tissue in my throat reorganizing in disguise. And that's something that I could say is, I'm not sick, it's my throat tissue and vocal cords reorganizing slightly so that I can sing better in the future. Because I really did want to sing when I was a little kid, and I was always afraid to, and I couldn't sing at all. So that's something I want to work on, or play with, I should say. And I remember meeting this really spiritual type, Jesus-looking guy 6 years ago, and I was in Santa Barbara, and when I came back, he emailed me and he said, have you started singing yet? And we had this really long eye stare thing happening, so I think he was trying to pass on that, sort of like the passing on that gift thing that a friend of mine and I were talking about recently. So I've been considering magical things like that within the last half an hour. And I was listening to a few of my self-dialogues, just random intervals and not all of it. And I ended up listening to one that I had made right after that crisis I had in January, and I'm finding that these dialogues with myself have messages, because I talk about things that I'm moving towards doing, like coming off meds, which I hadn't done at that point. But I also talk about things that are clues for me, like being grateful for the clubhouse and saying things like, I kind of owe my life to that place. And these are things that I forget about. So since I've created all this dialogue with myself, I can go back, and it seems like anything I listen to is pretty much exactly what I'm considering at that moment, which is strange. I don't know how that works, but it could be that I'm living in my own context and universe, so any gesture I make is going to naturally reach out to exactly that which I need to hear myself say. It's strange. It's happened pretty much every time I've listened to anything that I've talked about with myself, and I haven't really done it that much. So yeah, that was really interesting. And so it's given me some clues about what to focus on, and I might be going back to work in peer support a little bit. I don't know. I know I've talked against that, but I would be doing more facilitation, which I do enjoy. And also, I might be getting a job out of town, so things could really be changing in the next week. And I'm excited. And yeah, so I also heard myself say, just get up and be ready for the day. And I have been doing that, and then I usually dialogue with myself, but to focus on the question, what would a manic do? And I'm feeling this energy around creating my artist self and making these videos a little bit more fun and reaching out and playing with the universe a little bit. And I was listening to a talk by Krishnamurti, and he was saying, is there a different type of action? A non-accumulative perception and action. And I feel like I just want to explore that. Not just, but perception, action, and not this thought precognition. And he was saying that, and he was saying that that creates a different world. And that sounds really manic to me, because we do go into this perception action state, and it does create a different world for us, at least temporarily. But as more of us do that, a different world will arise and be created and will be brought about. And he says that in some of his videos. His videos take a little bit to get going, but the one that was really cool to me yesterday and today and maybe the day before is called A Learning That Transforms Consciousness by Jiddu Krishnamurti on YouTube. And then I came across another one today, and it's called Enlightened Mystic Jiddu Krishnamurti, Beyond Time. And at about the 12-minute mark, he starts talking about how we either use language or language uses us. And I've never heard him say that before yet. I've said that to myself, and I went into that quite deeply at certain times in my self-dialogue. So I thought that was really cool that he unfolds that in that video. And a quote that resonates with me today is by Ace of Base in the song The Sign. And they say, no one's going to drag you up to get into the light where you belong. And yesterday I ended up listening to a book called The Shortness of Life by Seneca, I think. And I've been looking into this Stoicism thing a tiny bit after listening to Tim Ferriss, and I probably won't explore it deeply because I usually explore things superficially to extrapolate to my own context, but not to deeply research it in order to try to memorize it and make it a pattern for my life. It just contributes to the overall context I've created and adds some value when I can extrapolate my own meaning from it. And in part of it, in chapter 7, they said, it takes effort to learn how to live. And it's talking about how people waste time and they don't know how to live. And I feel like I really do need to learn how to live now that I'm not on these meds. And ask that question, what would a manic do, or what would a superhuman do? And they also popped a quote by Steve Jobs on the screen because it was an audio being read. And he said, remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. And so yeah, I feel like I need to make some big choices soon and also learn how to live and make that effort to learn how to live, learn how to live, learn how to live. And I already understand that because I've been in those states before where it feels like this energy of living and exploring that. And yesterday I cleaned out a box of my stuff and its papers and things, and I came across this drawing I made in this Rocket book, which is that microwavable notebook that I got because I like those types of gadgets, though I haven't used it that much. And it's something about how if we have these circulating thoughts, the eye is a slit letting the light in, but with the thoughts going on as our voice in our head, then we're not really seeing the reality as it is. It's the reality waves mixed with all the thoughts. But if we're clear and our head is quiet, and then if we give voice to our clear perceptions, the brain creates particles when it sees the real. So seeing the real creates that real reality, whereas if it's mediated by thought, we're not really seeing actuality. So I also realized today when I was looking at it that when we give voice to things from a clear space, that then makes those particles available for us to experience. So giving voice resonates with the waves of actuality, and since there's so much information, it will bring that information to us, which is also what's happening when we have the circular thoughts, but then reality seems to be repeating. So we can talk our way out of this repetitious reality. And yeah, I need to continue to talk myself into learning how to live and making that effort, because I have talked myself out of the mental health paradigm, so I need to keep going. And yesterday, randomly, I colored my hummingbird picture that someone sent me to color because I really resonate with hummingbirds. And I kind of want to ask a friend to design a tattoo for me. I don't have any, but one with a hummingbird and a fly, because a hummingbird drinks nectar and it's so beautiful, and I connect with that and the joy, and I resonated with them and declared them my power animal when I was in California. And then the fly, because that's when it all started, when I made that video, the fly whisper with the flies, and made friends with them. And they don't drink nectar like hummingbirds, they kind of eat shit. Yet they're both very important, and one is one of the most beautiful flying organisms, and the other is considered one of the most disgusting. And they both have a place, so yeah, thinking about that. And a quote by Krishnamurti is, being concerned with a way of life that may bring a different world into being. And I feel like those of us who have gone into map consciousness, trance consciousness, and manic consciousness have a sense of what that is. A different way of living that makes it feel like there's a different world coming into being. And we're being in that reality, and our being is that reality, and our being is unfolding that reality moment to moment. And that's why today I've felt that the energy of my being is what is most important. And right now, coffee seems to be something that is really good. Today is a milestone day. It's officially 12 weeks of being completely off psychopharmaceuticals. And I'm feeling good. Things are good. I don't really have to share too much about the journey because I've already done that. And today also marks the day that I've been home now for a month. I was in California for over 5 months, and now I've been home for a month. And learning from those challenges of being around the familiar again, and also adapting and getting used to things like traffic and noise and lots of people and cities and construction and TVs and where are the hummingbirds, though I have seen a few, and things like that. And I have been a little under the weather this last week, but I got a lot done. I double backed up all my videos onto 2 external hard drives, which took a long time because they were in iCloud in the photos part. So I had to find the right videos, download them, save them, transfer them between hard drives, and now I've done that. So I feel like that is safe and organized, and now I'm wondering, how do I share this? And I'm starting a new video playlist of myself talking about the process of sharing, as opposed to talking about the process of talking and talking about that and adding more context, but learning how to share in an intelligent way and in a way that I feel safe and comfortable with, because I wouldn't want to create more challenges than I'm ready for at this point. So yeah, milestone day. 3 things I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for transcending the mental health system. And I need to remember that that was one of my dreams, and I'm now living that dream. And also remembering that I would like to share the possibility of that dream with others. I need to remember that, sharing the possibility of the dream of living beyond the mental health medical model with others. And I've already created a couple of videos today. I was trying to create an intro video. I was trying to create a video 20 because I missed that video in the list because there was a duplicate. I'm trying to create a video inviting co-creators and trying to create a longer video, perhaps, of some sort. I'm not sure. It's a little bit all over the place. And I feel like I want to create Synchroversity Learning Community, which is a discovery learning community, which is based on self-discovery, however that process might look like, and discovering together and sharing together and creating together and collaborating together and all that wonderful stuff. And can the learning community transform into something? I don't know what that is, but perhaps a co-creative neuro tribe of sorts. I'm also grateful for both my eyebrows being now active. Before, only one would really go up, and I noticed in a recent video that both of them go up. And I don't know if I can do one at a time, but it seemed like that inactive eyebrow is now more active. And I'm also grateful for creativity as an extraordinary state of consciousness and an altered state of consciousness. When we think of altered states of consciousness or extraordinary states or extreme states, we think about being so high or ecstatic or being on LSD or in an extreme mania or psychosis. What if we're in a slightly altered creative state on a daily basis, and does that do anything to prevent extreme states? Being in an altered state, a different state than the way we usually operate in terms of the self, if we operate in a non-self way, does that prevent somewhat the need, want, desire, involuntary happening of extreme altered states of no self? I have no idea. I just made that up now. And hopefully in this new video series that I'm going to create, it'll be a little bit more fun, and maybe the fun will come in sharing it, because I've been thinking volitionally of how to have more happiness, how to have more fun, how to move into some of these contexts and concepts that I created for myself, yet I'm not living them fully. But perhaps it's difficult to live them fully, or even dangerous to live them fully alone and in isolation. So not only would I invite people to share in collaborating and co-creating, but also share in these new ways of being together and seeing together and moving together and living together and wondering together and sharing and playing and all of that stuff. And one of the benefits of being off coffee for so long is a little goes a long way. And I had a little cup this morning and I'm feeling it. And then I was also feeling like I want more. But then I realized that that'll just make me really adapted to coffee, and it'll take a lot more to have the same effect. So it will slowly take more and more to have the same effect, but I'm going to keep it on the low dose right now and switch to yerba mate. So my brain has switched a little bit from this desire to create a business to starting off creating a discovery learning community online somehow. And I outlined a bunch of that in a different video I created, which is going to be part of my new dialogue with myself. So I don't think I need to talk myself into creativity as much as sharing, and move away from these ideas that I have in my head about creativity and altruism into sharing this dialogue, sharing energy, sharing whatever. It doesn't have to be seemingly altruistic, because perhaps this conversation with myself might be a gift to even one person, might help even one person. And I heard that quote again this morning about to know that even one person breathed easier by your existence. And how do I do that? And that's going to be part of the new self-dialogue is sharing in a safe way. Because a lot of these things that I've talked about with myself aren't necessarily safe to say in public. I might say them to my friends and peers, but I don't know if I want to say it to everybody. So, yeah. And 2 years ago, I went to Steve Pavlina's Conscious Living workshop, and it was a great workshop, and he talked a lot about lifestyle design. And here I am 2 years later, which seems to be the cycle of things, is 2 years. And I have a chance to really design my life, and part of it feels like it should be designing in this sharing. And this morning, I went to go get the mail, and the mailboxes are down the block, and there's a bunch of different mailboxes in a row, and each person has their own little slot and their own little key. So I put in the key and try to turn it, and it's not turning. And it's not turning, and I'm looking, and I have the right number of the mail slot, and I think, who's changed the locks? What's going on? And no matter how I jiggled the key and turned it, it wouldn't turn. And I was so focused on turning it that it took a while before my perception zoomed out. And I realized that there was a mailbox to the left, because there's a few separate ones. And I realized that I had walked by the first mailbox, which is the box that has my mailbox. I'd walked to the second one and put the key in the right number, but wrong box. So I went over to the left, turned the key in that same number, but different box, and lo and behold, it opened. And I was so focused on turning that key that I didn't even realize that I'd walked by the right box to the second box and I was turning the key in the wrong box. So it made me think about how in life sometimes we're so focused on a certain problem that we don't actually see that our seeing, that we've missed something, our lack of seeing is the problem, or there is no problem if we see what information we're missing. And it felt a little bit like my journey in a way. It also felt like how these little seemingly meaningless incidents in life, like putting the key in the wrong mailbox, can be a metaphor for life. It made me realize that in my journey, I could be so focused on a certain problem, a problem of having a mental health diagnosis and that whole structure, and really trying to fix within that, which is like putting the key in the wrong mail slot and it not turning and wondering why it's not working. When the key is in the wrong mail slot, and if one realizes that one is putting one's focus on the wrong thing, no amount of focusing on the wrong thing is going to fix the problem. So I extrapolate that to how through my journey I've created my own context, which has broadened my view, expanded my perception, made me take a step back and look and see there's a bunch of different mailboxes to put the key in. And then I could go about putting the key in every single one and seeing which one unlocks, or in this case, I got to see that I just had gone to the wrong box. But I didn't even notice that I walked by that first box and went to the second box, which is something that I feel happens in mental health. We walk by the box of nutrition. We walk by the box of eliminating stress. And we go right to the box of, you have a major mental illness and you need to take these drugs forever. And then doing that and turning that key is like trying to fix something by putting the key in the wrong mail slot. So through this journey of self-dialogue, I've realized that this nutritional element is huge, and I really don't know how long this will continue to be true for me. I don't know if these micronutrients will prevent crisis, and that's the next part of this journey, is seeing how long they prevent crisis. If it's over 8.5 months, then these micronutrients are doing better than the regime I was taking of medications that seemed to land me in a crisis every 6 to 8.5 months. Now I'm at the 5-month mark of the mini crisis I had in March, and then I started taking the micronutrients, and I have been for nearly 5 months. But I haven't only been taking the micronutrients. That's been for 3 months. So it will be somewhat telling at the 8.5 month since the March crisis, and it will also be telling at the 8.5 months mark of taking just the micronutrients and no medications. So perhaps that's the next bit, and in the meantime, while allowing that to unfold, I will work on this dialogue of sharing the dialogue and then sharing whether I have more time without a crisis than being on the medication regime. So in terms of this process of being off meds, that really is the next milestone. Is, does it disrupt this pattern of having a crisis every 6 to 8.5 months? I will keep track of that and keep track of this process of learning how to share this process, and perhaps start sharing the dialogue more seriously when I have indeed stayed out of crisis for 9 months. And I've been thinking of making a couple fun videos as part of the video series, or moving on, just making more fun videos in general, and also videos about this process of sharing. So yeah, I'm excited to see what happens next. All right, self. It's time to start a new dialogue. And today I'm having a different sense of the flavor of a dialogue I need to create with myself, and perhaps new lines of dialogue. I was thinking about diversifying into different modes of creativity, but perhaps really it could be diversifying the dialogue. So I have created nearly 400 videos of me talking to myself to talk myself out of the mental health system. And now that I've done that, I feel like this is a gift in a way to somebody, I don't know who. It might be able to help one person, it might be able to help 10 people. It might be detrimental to one person. I don't know really what it is. So I do need to wrap my head around thinking of it in terms of a gift, because I've talked to myself about sharing our gifts and these types of concepts, and it's difficult to move into embodying that sharing. So I've talked about creativity, I've talked about altruism, but both those things, plus what I've done so far, could be encapsulated into sharing. Because I could think, well, I want to go out and do altruistic acts, maybe make sandwiches for homeless people or donate blood, and those are things I can do. But also, how do I share what I've created? And I've been thinking about that lately, and I've been thinking about ways to do that. The trouble is I start creating documents about how to do it or the things I've discovered that might be helpful, but then I lose track of the documents, and then I create a whole new document every day, and it gets really confusing. So I'm thinking that I could create a new line of dialogue around talking to myself about things that I've discovered about this next thing in terms of figuring out how to share this, which isn't about, oh, I want to share this because it's so great. It's about inviting people into the dialogue and inviting people into thinking differently about themselves and creating a new world around everything related to this, of being labeled and transcending the system if that's what one wants. And maybe a lot of people don't, and that's completely fine, but there are a lot of people that do. So yeah, I don't want to talk about that too much, but perhaps I'll start a new dialogue about that and just have that as a separate playlist of me literally talking to myself to remind myself what I discovered the previous day and work on those things instead of making lists about possibly working on those things. So, for example, a few things that I've started using lately. One is Google Sheets, and I use that to create a document of all my YouTube audio videos and my YouTube video videos, and the length of time, and also the links. And then I went ahead and made all my videos private because I was thinking that I could share them that way on Patreon. Because the thing is, I want to share this a little bit slowly and get feedback from the people that it really matters. People like me, people with lived experience. I don't want to make it this big public thing that will be misinterpreted. Perhaps later on I won't care, but at first it would be good to share it with certain people. And so I have that list of links, and then I created another Google spreadsheet on Google Sheets of some ideas and things. And I was thinking of creating a business, but then a friend of mine said, you don't really need to do that. And I was thinking of creating the business partly to have a framework to hold the content that I've created, but there could be other frameworks, and I'm thinking of exploring those first. And even today I was thinking, why don't I just create a discovery learning community that can be accessed worldwide, and start doing little bits of that. So for example, I did buy a Dropbox Pro account. I was thinking of uploading all the videos, and then that way there's links to the videos, and they're something that can have expiry dates set to them and then emailed, but then I need people's emails, and then it takes too long to upload them. So I did upload the audios, so I could email out the audio links and have those expire if I want. And for that I need people's emails, and I could send them to some people who are higher up in the advocacy stuff right now in mental health. And that's one thing. And so I also realized I could create a folder and upload all the different papers and articles that I've researched over the years, and just have that available to share as part of the discovery learning community. And then I thought of using something else I've discovered recently, which is Dropbox Paper. And I kind of like creating stuff on that. And one can actually put Dropbox links into Dropbox Paper and create these really nice documents. So I was thinking that I could use Dropbox Paper to introduce those documents and have a flow of that people can kind of go through them and work through them if they're interested. So that's part of the discovery learning community. And then I also thought about how some of these things that I thought of today to do, I could start to do, and start them as seeds, and then invite people to collaborate with me to keep going. For example, starting the document about the discovery learning community, I could do introduce a few of those documents, and then have someone keep going, have the documents and be able to put them into Dropbox Paper and introduce them and keep going with that. And also listening to my videos and harvesting them. So harvesting them for things like keywords. So when they are made more accessible, there's keywords to search, and also video title, perhaps time markers for best of clips that could go in a best of thing, or also things that could go in a documentary, and also a list of the lexicon terms for the Manicon and word transformations. I do a lot of those to create a Synchroversity learning community lexicon. And to start it off as Synchroversity learning community, and then move it into a co-creative neurotribe where we're actually creating and sharing our gifts and producing things with our gifts. And that first step would be to produce something with the gift that I've created. And I don't know if it really is a gift. It could be a bunch of crap, but I have to at least pretend that it's a gift and move towards sharing that. And then also harvest for some groups or certain topics of dialogue to have, like there's already a Hearing Voices group. Well, what kind of groups can we create that book on our own by that woman, I can't think of her name, talks about consciousness raising groups, and there could be co-creative groups or sharing visions and ideas groups beyond the groups that are already created and prominent out there. And that's another thing. Book recommendations. There are some really great books out there that are great to read. So harvesting for that. And then things that I might say live, or things that I might say in a speech to sum things up, and also different documentaries that are good, people to reach out to, possible Patreon rewards, and lifestyle design factors, stages of transformation, things that could go in an ebook. So these are some of the things that could be harvested from the videos. And the reason I want some help with this is that would take me a really long time. And those are things that I want to co-create with people. There's some things that would be hard for people to harvest for me, like things for a speech, but that's not necessarily true. And yeah, so that's part of that. And perhaps things that I might say on a live stream or Instagram live, something that would be good as an online program. And maybe specific online programs, I don't know, or videos to make in the future that are more topic specific. And the thing is too, in sharing this, other people could make videos on these topics, and it doesn't have to be me. I might talk about something that I allude to, but I'm not really an expert on it per se. And I'm an expert in my own experience and in my own journey, but there's a lot of things that I'm curious about, but I don't have the time to get to everything. So this is about leveraging time and not spending so much time going through this again, perhaps. And so something else I came across today was an article on a Patreon WordPress plugin, and I'm not sure how that works, but I'm going to look it up, as well as an Embed private video plugin for WordPress, where one can put private videos on one's WordPress site and then the link is not shareable. And later I don't care, but at first I want to make it accessible and just share it with a few people. And also Vimeo Pro makes it so it can't be shared in terms of the link, but just viewed. And this could be something that eventually I just have to make it fully accessible, or nobody will watch it. It won't catch on at all. So I'm just wondering. And then, of course, the Dropbox audio link expiring, or I could try and upload all my videos to Dropbox. That would take a while, and it would take a lot of internet capacity. And then there's also YouTube to YouTube user share, which can be done with private video. So that's something I'm already set up for, as well as the Dropbox audio link. I also thought of paying a person to extrapolate the videos, and also extrapolating some videos myself for those elements to seed that process and see what that looks like for myself, listening for those certain elements. And creating this daily dialogue with myself about sharing these processes and learning to embed private videos, for example. And the plugin that I learned about, you can embed one video for free. So I think I'm going to make a video that's longer and maybe invite people into this process and see what kind of response that I get. And I do want to create a sort of speech, I think, because my mode really is talking. And the other day somebody said to me, "You're really articulate." And I don't think the same is true with writing so much. So going with that. And yeah, so listening to old videos to get the harvest going, some affiliate links, start the lexicon. And I really want to be able to do this sort of thing full time. And right now I've invested 1,000 hours of my energy, my heart. This is what means the most to me, to talk to myself and share with myself. And I do want to share outwardly, intelligently. So working on that and dialoguing about that to kind of talk myself into that, talk myself into sharing. And I've talked myself out of the mental health system, so talk myself into sharing this journey in an intelligent way that is understandable, and inviting people to co-create with that if it's something that people want to do. And yesterday there was a bit of a sign. I was at the clubhouse, and I'm not there very often because I'm living further away, and somebody was there handing out flyers for the West Coast Mental Health Network. And this is the flyer. And under statement of activities, it says 1, to maintain peer-run support groups for consumer/survivors of psychiatry. Provide information and referral services to consumer/survivors and educate the general public through blah, 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 blah. So it says, and I want to do that stuff too, but I still feel like I need to create something from what I've created and keep going with that and not rely on other organizations at this point. And yeah, so I can create seeds of those things that I've talked about. And there are things that I have to do myself, like embed the private videos. I have the links, etc. Start those other bits and then invite people, once I've embedded some private videos, to help with that. Harvesting stuff and then creating a speech and then perhaps creating a documentary or something. Because I want to continue doing this stuff about 20 hours a week and then perhaps start talking with other people on video, or that could be something that happens is people want to talk on video about some of the stuff that resonated with them from my videos. So yeah. And at the same time, it has to be something that can sustain me financially, because right now I am thinking about getting back into facilitating a bit to have some money to be able to do this and keep going with this. So by talking to myself about this kind of stuff, I think it'll help. And I thought of creating a MedX speech, which is a play on TEDx. And MedX means Xing out medications, psych medications. And I'm just talking about my notes to myself here to translate it into video. Talk about what I've done, what I'm trying to do next, inviting people to participate in raising consciousness and learning together, asking people to sign up for Patreon. I want this to go into full time. And I put in 1,000 hours, that's 20 hours a week for the last year, meanwhile maintaining my health and living on very little means. And I want to share what I've discovered. And I also started another little speech saying, I want to invite you into a world, a new universe. If you are watching this, perhaps your synchronicity is in order. Do you know what synchronicity is? We have just synchronized. I want you to look at this photo, and I want to show that 6 years ago photo versus last year. This was me 6 years ago, over-medicated, suicidal by akathisia, and dreading unfolding the moments of my life. How is it that my life is so much better than that trajectory and didn't turn into tragedy? A new universe, a new you and I verse, a song that we sing together to unfold a world that we hold within, yet made to behold, yet made to be manifest. What is preventing this from manifesting? Is there anything we need to do, or do we need to remove the blocks? So I don't want to make this too long. The other bits I wrote were people to reach out to, like Thomas Metzinger, as his wife created a documentary called Hearing Voices, and perhaps someone like Dabney Alex or Sean Blackwell. And sharing the videos and documentaries that are already created that are great, like Masks of Madness, The Virtues of Noncompliance, Healing Voices, Hearing Voices, Crazy Wise, and also the one by Katie Mottram, which is Emerging Proud. So I'm seeing that maybe by creating a Dropbox paper thing daily, I'll be able to just talk about it and not have to edit, though I'll still want to listen to it, perhaps to keep inspiring myself to go on. Because the thing is, I forget what to do on a daily basis, and then I create some other idea about what to do, and then I don't know what to do. So I need to stay focused on sharing what I've created because I've spent so much time creating it. Don't forget that. Hey friends, this is the quick lowdown. The rest of it isn't quick. It's very long. I've created a lot of videos in the last year of me talking to myself. Sound crazy? Well, it kind of is. And 6 years ago, I was labeled with a mental illness, bipolar disorder 1 with psychotic features. And I was told to believe a lot of different things about myself. So I decided to start talking to myself on video, and I didn't know what would happen. And turns out this process continued for an entire year. So I've created an entire year of me babbling on to myself about what I think about what's going on. And it kind of took on a life of its own. So now I have all of this content, if you want to call it that, and I don't know what the heck to do with it. And I'd like to share it with my friends who might resonate with some of it. And before watching the videos, I would ask, please don't take any of my advice, and please don't think that I'm trying to give anybody advice. I'm just talking to myself and seeing what happens. I invite you to talk to yourself and see what happens. I invite you to talk to me and reach out and see what happens. But there is no advice here saying, if you do this, this will happen. Besides, I'm not sure if this will resonate with anyone. I'm feeling it might resonate with people who get labeled with something like bipolar disorder and have a lot to say and nobody to say it to, and might be interested in seeing what happens when that is engaged with by means of talking to one's iPhone. And so one thing that I would ask, if anyone is at all interested in co-creating some of the things that I talk about with myself that I probably can't remember, it'd be helpful if you remind me. And also, if anyone wants to suggest titles for the videos or topics that I talk about, let me know in each video, or the clips that are most resonant. That way, maybe I can summarize it somehow, sometime. Also, I create a lot of words with myself, just for fun, and it feels helpful to create congruent words for myself. And if anyone wants to help me in creating a list of those words, to create a lexicon of sorts, that would be great. And also, if I mention any books or products or things, remind me. That way, maybe it can be turned into something that is somewhat helpful at some point. I don't know about the actual dialogue with myself. I also talk about lifestyle design. I talk about groups I want to create. I talk about a lot of stuff. So there's certain categories I feel, and if people would like to help me make it linear, because my brain works really well at creating lots of ideas and insights and meaning and context, but then I forget. So I have no idea what I'm doing, but I have created this thing that perhaps might be an invitation to some of my friends out there, some of my fellow neurotribees, to co-create something. Hello, friends. I'm reaching out to you because I've been talking to myself for an entire year, and frankly, I'm tired of it. So I'm opening up the conversation. And I've said a lot to myself over the last year, and what I really want to say right now is, 1, please don't take anything that I say as advice. For one reason, what I say changes on a daily basis. For another reason, I forget most things that I say, and I don't necessarily do all that I say. And for another reason, this isn't medical advice. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a person with lived experience going through the mental health system, and I'm sharing from that perspective. And also, please take what I say with a grain of salt. I'm not speaking here in terms of facts, what's right and wrong, good and bad. It is completely subjective. It's a vulnerable conversation with myself where I speak openly, and I'm wondering, and I'm not really knowing what the heck I'm going to say, and I just say things. And I don't believe anything I say, and in that way, there's a lot to say. I'm speaking from wondering and creating lots of context, not the perspective of creating factual content. And you'll see what I mean if you watch some of this and as time goes on. What I will invite you to do, though, is share your feedback with me on what resonates and even what doesn't. This is an open conversation, and it's a conversation with myself. In this, I'm just talking with myself. I'm not trying to persuade anyone or convince anyone of anything. It's just talking to myself and see what happens. And I didn't expect what has happened to happen, and that's going to keep happening. So I would say sign up for the mailing list, because I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to share this. I might share the videos through YouTube, so I would need an email that is connected to your YouTube account. As well, I could share the Dropbox links to your email or send you the password to a private page through my blog. And the reason I'm doing this to start out is that I want to share initially with the people that this resonates with, and that's who it's for, is to have a conversation with people who get it. So if you don't get it, you're not going to waste your time watching it. And if you do get it, you might waste your time watching it. And if you are going to waste your time watching it, I would ask for some help. And the help I'm asking for... Hello, friends. I really want to share something with you. 6 years ago, I was labeled with a mental illness, a serious one, bipolar disorder 1 with psychotic features. And in the last year, I've been talking with myself on video and trying to figure out for myself what this means and unfold my own context. And the process took on a life of its own. And to start with, I'd like to share it with people who find this by synchronicity. If you're watching this, maybe you're meant to watch some of it and see what happens. I started talking to myself, and it was just to see what happens. And I found that by talking with myself, certain things unfolded as going from being possible to actual. And it's an ongoing process, and it's still ongoing. And so with that, I would say, please don't take anything that I say as advice, because One, I'm not a doctor, and please consult your doctor for any kind of medical advice. Two, what I say to myself changes on a daily basis, and you'll notice that. So I'm wondering, but I'm not necessarily talking to give advice. I'm wondering. I'm engaged in a process of dialogue with myself. It's not a process of goal setting, or it's not a process of action items. It's not a process of to-dos. It's wondering, and that's all. I do invite you to wonder. I invite you to wonder about yourself, your capacities, your gifts, what it all meant, what all that crazy altered state experience meant. And I do invite you to reach out and share with me what is resonant, what is dissonant. If there's anything you might want to talk about or co-create. And I have a lot of ideas around that, so I invite you to ask me if you are at all interested. Please realize that I don't remember most things that I've talked about with myself. I don't remember most things I say. And because I don't remember, I can say a lot. So I would request to focus on non-focusing, to suspend judging particular things that I say, and see that the process of seeing and saying and wondering unfolds life in new ways. Or maybe it's something else. I really don't know. I don't remember. I'd like to reach out and see what resonates. There are lots of things that are possible to co-create, and I'm not sure which bits I would like to move into co-creating. I see people like me as containing so much unmanifested potential, and I'm wondering if some of this might invite that out, or invite us to start having dialogue with each other in new ways. And the reason that I've spoken with myself so much on video is partly because when I was first diagnosed 6 years ago, I could barely see straight. I was on a lot of medication. I had to buy 3 different strengths of cheap reading glasses from dollar stores in order to read one medical form, depending on the time of day. And it was really a struggle to read, to focus, to concentrate. And in recent years, I've come across many great books sharing a lot of wonderful perspective, and that's when I realized I wasn't alone in how my heart had been feeling about some of these experiences in altered states of consciousness that were then labeled as a permanent, lifelong mental illness. So I've created a lot of video partly for people who may be in the early parts of their journey, and it's hard to focus, and it's hard to concentrate, and it's hard to read, and so hopefully that part is helpful. And this is a process that I created for myself by participating in this process, and I do understand that everyone's process looks differently. I'm sharing the process that I've utilized and I've felt was helpful, yet that doesn't necessarily translate to everybody. So I invite you to find your own unique process for wondering about yourself and rediscovering and recreating yourself and seeing yourself differently and thinking about yourself differently, which then makes other things happen in life. It translates into a different life trajectory unfolding. Maybe. It's hard to say. This isn't about results. It's about seeing and thinking differently. And when that happens, life unfolds in new ways. maybe. And I say that from this point in time, a year later, but I didn't know what would happen if I gave myself the time of day to think in new ways and to think about old experiences in new ways, and not only the ways that I've been told to interpret them. It's not about my interpretations are the right ones. I've created thousands of possible interpretations for myself, and that's part of the fun of it, is creating lots of different interpretations and not getting stuck in any particular one. And then discovering that we have that power, we have that potential to create meaning for ourselves. And when we create meaning for ourselves, instead of relying on the meanings that we've been given through our entire life, what happens? Maybe something more meaningful. Maybe something according to the meanings that we've created. It's not about right and wrong. It's not about good and bad. It's not about reward and punishment. And this is difficult because I feel in my experience, being labeled with a serious mental illness feels like punishment for having perceptual experiences that are different than what is functional on a daily basis. So I felt it was important for me to engage myself in a way that is beyond that framework. I feel this has implications for learning, for neuroplasticity, for a lot of things that are in the forefront of conversation right now in science. Yet, people who are labeled with major mental illnesses are put in a category of being defective and deficient, not superhuman, super learners, or highly neuroplastic people. And so I invite you to let me know what you think. I invite you to sign up for my email list so that I can share this with you on a personal level by opening up a line of communication between us. And I'm curious about what will happen when we start talking to each other in new ways. Welcome to video XX, 20 in Roman numerals. And also XX because it's a little bit of a mistake. I accidentally added a duplicate video in my playlist of videos, and I didn't want to have to renumber all the videos. So I'm going to add in this one in its place, and the time of this video is quite out of order from the other videos. At this point in the playlist, it's September 11th, 2016. Quite a bit of time has passed since then, and I'm wondering what to do with this dialogue with myself. So at this point, I'd like to ask for your help. If you feel at all like you resonate with any of this, I invite you to co-create with me. I invite you to collaborate. Certain aspects I'll get right to the point because I'm not very good at that. Certain aspects I'm looking to harvest from this dialogue, this self-dialogue, is a title for the videos, each video. Also, any clips that could be part of a documentary. Any clips that might be good for a best of video or something more succinct. Keywords for the videos and a lexicon. Any new words that I make up, keeping track of those, and also word transformations. And any groups that we might want to start or certain lines of dialogue, as well as any short points that are good summaries that are really resonant and perhaps helpful tips. people that I mention reaching out to, documentaries that I mention, books that I mention that I've read, also things that could be rewards on Patreon, as well as things that help to raise consciousness, lifestyle design factors, elements that might go in a speech or an ebook, and things to say live, maybe having some live chats over live stream or YouTube or something, and things that might be good to talk about live. It seems kind of weird to say all this, but at the same time, those who would like to participate in making this a little bit more co-creative, I invite you to do so. And I do invite that along the way, but I'd like to invite that now, early on, in case there are a few people who are interested in collaborating. This is an invitation to collaborate while watching it, as opposed to inviting it at the end when a person might have watched it all or not. There's a lot. So I look forward to your feedback. I look forward to hearing what maybe I should remove, because I'm not really good with this whole right and wrong thing. And yeah. Last night I did not sleep well at all. I stayed up kind of late working on some stuff, and then when I was going to go to sleep, every time I was trying to fall asleep, my throat was dry and I was coughing and I just couldn't fall asleep. And I kept looking at the phone, and then it was nearly 3 a.m. So I might have slept 3 or 4 hours at most. And it was a rough night. I felt like I couldn't fall asleep. So I didn't have any coffee this morning because I want to make sure I sleep tonight. And I was thinking about setting up a new playlist and having a new dialogue theme, but I think that'll be too confusing for me. At least it feels that way today. So I'm just going to keep going and put some more emphasis on creating this synchroversity learning community, and also perhaps a business. I really don't know. Today I'm kind of PMSing, and I didn't sleep much, and I didn't have any coffee, so I'm not feeling the greatest, but oh well, I'm just gonna keep going with this process like I usually do, and keep it simple and not make the self-dialogue part more complicated, because the other aspects I'm looking into right now are getting a little more complicated. And yesterday I learned how to make a newsletter landing page on WordPress. I didn't test to see if it actually works, but I installed the plugin and did a few steps, and we'll see what happens there. And then I also installed a Patreon plugin. So I don't know what I'm trying to do. I think I'm trying to create some kind of hub for sharing this. And in terms of actually sharing it, I'm thinking that I want to wait till closer to 9 months of being off medications, because that will show to me that the micronutrients work just as well at preventing crisis, because I was having a crisis every 6 to 8.5 months. So if I can be off all the meds and at 9 months still be crisis free, then that's really saying something. So that time frame is February 2018, mid-February. So until then, I want to work on different things. I listened to 2 dialogues today from July 8th and harvested them for the things that I said, and I might do the first 10 like that, and then set up the first 10 videos to share maybe earlier. We'll see, because it's going to take a lot of work to share it in the way that I'd like to share it, which is more privately to begin with. And since I found out that private YouTube videos can be embedded on WordPress with a plugin that I can buy, I got them to help me test it out. It's called Embed Private Video, and that way I can share the videos and then have them private so the links can't be shared, and then also have them password protected. And it's not that I want to keep this all secret and stuff, but what I feel like I'm learning also is that if I want to create some kind of more succinct course of some kind from what I've created as the dialogues, then now I see how I can do it. And my site's a mess, and it's a gong show, and it's chaos, and it doesn't look good, but at least learning how to do these things is kind of cool. So that's the thing I think is cool, is learning how to create some kind of co-creative online space, even if it's not high-tech and all fancy and expensive. If I know how to do some of it myself, then I'll know which parts at some point will be worth paying some money to do. For example, I remember when I met up with that man who was kind of homeless years ago, and he told me about this homeless network, and I won't give the details in case it was supposed to be a secret, but I'm seeing that I could create a bit of a network for people to communicate about this privately, because it's not really an open conversation right now. So I've created all these videos, and maybe somebody will watch them and want to create a video response to extrapolate what I created. So that way it builds and it grows and more people participate, and then later on maybe we share the videos and maybe we don't. Maybe we just share what it is that comes out of this way of communicating with each other. So I'm really not sure what will happen there, but I'm exploring those possibilities. So that's where I want to keep my brain linear and not really worry about linearity when it comes to these dialogues. And I listened to two, and I was really surprised by what it said. I was inviting co-creators and all that right from the beginning. So yeah, I have to harvest those things, figure out how to post them, and I might start posting them but then schedule them for mid-February. That way right now I can do the work on that, and in this time where I'm waiting in a way and doing other lifestyle design factors and hanging on to a thread a little bit in terms of my situation of living and not being as connected to people and not feeling like I know where I belong right now, creating this online sharing of some kind and learning about that, learning about it for myself. And there's a lot of interesting things, and seeing if I can figure out how to create some flow out of it in the meantime, because that's not really a goal of mine. I could just sit and wait and twiddle my thumbs and say, well, if I get to mid-February and micronutrients are still working really well for me, I'm just going to make all the videos public and blast it out there and see what happens. So that's one approach. And then the other approach is, well, since I'm seeing how these micronutrients work, in the meantime, I can see what kind of learning community I can set up, what kind of sharing, what kind of experimenting with harmless monetization. Because it would really be cool if by mid-February, when I'm figuring out if the micronutrients are still working, that I can just have my lifestyle designed at the same time and kind of take off and live life exactly as I want. So right now it's a bit of vulnerable time because my living situation isn't the greatest. I don't have a lot of financial resources to create it the way I would like ideally, but can I start creating this sharing the way I would like ideally, and then see if that might help me live my ideal lifestyle? Because I do talk a lot about lifestyle design, so if I'm not able to design my life in the meantime, then I'm not really living in alignment with what I've talked about with myself all along, which is the importance of that. And even sharing some of this might not lead to anything financially abundant, but it might create a really abundant neuro tribe or social structure around the world of people who get what I've been talking about with myself, which I don't even really know what that is unless I listen to what I said. So the dialogue is changing and changing into moving into sharing some of this. And I'm just going to talk randomly right now and then look at some of my notes. I do have quite a bit to talk about, and making and editing videos takes a lot of time, and then more time is needed for the other stuff that I want to move into, like harvesting old videos, figuring out how to post them. So there's a lot to do. And I'm feeling semi-inspired, not super inspired. Doesn't help that I've been sick for over a week, and now I'm tired and I feel a bit lost. But that's never stopped me from talking to myself. And I feel it's more so indicative that it's really time to design my life. I might go on a little road trip for a week in September, and that depends on what happens with a few other things in the next few days. And I'm going to likely get a P.O. box, like a mailbox. That way I can put that address on Mail Munch, which is required for having a proper mailing list. So there are practical steps, and then that would also be helpful because I could sign up for a PayPal business account and set it up kind of as like a business learning community, just to have this structure in place, because that was another thing I talked about with myself, is have the structure in case people do want to co-create. Then it could be a lot easier, and it could even be helpful for people who want to create stuff but don't want to create that structure, so they could be contracted somehow within this. I don't know, I'm just creating. I probably made quite a few plans in my videos and I don't even remember what I said. So I'm trying to be more linear, and it's really challenging. And yesterday I walked in this park for the first time in over a week, and I had been up to 13,000 steps a day between being on the trampoline and doing 2 laps at this park nearly every day. And then it went down to next to nothing. And I'll take a screenshot and put that in. Very few steps. And yesterday when I was at this park, I saw 2 bunnies. And I hadn't seen any bunnies here before, so that was really cool to see some bunnies. Because it reminded me of California with the bunnies and the hummingbirds, and just reminded me that that beauty of nature is everywhere. And yeah, so this part of setting up a business isn't about personal abundance. It'd be nice to have some kind of flow to take this out to the next level. And it's also about maybe showing people how to create this creative flow structure. And one of the ways that I've done that is to talk to myself and then have this as a way to keep that creative energy flowing and have that energy translated, have somewhere for it to go. So the energy is being acknowledged and moved. And so now it would be about creating a way to share that. And perhaps one day people will set up a live stream, or we'll have Google Hangouts together and things, and be able to talk to each other instead of talking to ourselves on video. So I have my phone plugged into my battery pack. This thing charges up better with a 2 amp wall plug, which I actually have one for my Samsung work phone. So I was about to buy one and I noticed there was Samsung ones. I'm like, oh, I have one of those, so I didn't have to buy one for now. I also feel like there's something going on in terms of learning to live life without problems. What I mean by that is, for the last 6 years, I've had this big problem, this being a part of the mental health paradigm and wanting to transcend that. And now that I don't have a lot of my conscious and subconscious energy devoted to feeling like one day I want to solve that problem. And so I've been living life according to solving that problem, and a lot of energy moving in that. And now that I'm beyond that, I feel like I don't even know how to live. And I really need to learn. And I did listen to that book on the Shortness of Life, and it said making the effort to learn how to live. So in the spirit of learning how to live, I signed up for a 5K color run. And that's where they give you these color bomb packets, and everybody is covered in colorful ink. So that sounded kind of fun, even though I'm not a runner. So I did that, and Boney M is actually coming to town with an ABBA tribute band, and it's the lead singer of the original Boney M, and that's sort of music from my childhood that I find happy and fun. So I might go see that if I'm in town, even though the tickets are a bit expensive. But these are practices in learning how to live beyond problems. It's challenging. And I'm finding that my biggest struggle right now is financial. So creating in that will be helpful, I think. And I can't ignore that domain of human existence. And in the spirit of synchronicity and generosity, I put a whole quarter on the ground on the trail. And it also fascinates me to think about how that intentional action of putting a quarter there purposefully so someone will see it and pick it up catches someone's eye and catches their perception and changes their action to reach down and pick something up. And thus, in a weird way, me and that person have synchronized ever so slightly, because their perception picked up on something of my intention. And that's happening all the time in life. When we're around each other, our perceptions are some things that are picking up on what other people are doing. So this is a way to do that in a little bit of a magical way. It's a little practice that I do sometimes. Also wanting someone else to have something financial. And I'm playing the lottery this week, and this feels to me like playing with magic a little bit, getting people to synchronize with me, even if it's at this strange level. And even making it a game one day, putting a little note on a quarter and then saying, watch this video, and it's a private video on this page, and then it sends people on a magical journey. So I have lots of ideas like that, and it will be fun one day when I get to those more playful elements. And that's why learning these other things about the website and private videos and blah, blah, blah will all be helpful. So there's a possibility of monetization in mind, because that would give some abundance to continue this work, which is really about designing a life where I can be that way that I've connected with, and make a structure where it can be sustainable to wander with love. Oh, I hear a hummingbird. There he is. I don't know if that was him. This guy. Look at this little inchworm. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. These moments are better than anything I have to say. The real point is, can people see this? Look at him. Can people see the subtle? And if they could, we wouldn't destroy this. We would create something else that doesn't destroy this. See you later, Inchi. I'm gonna go back to talking to myself. Even though I could probably hang out with you for half an hour like I did that tiny, tiny caterpillar in California. Found a crayon, so I drew a sun. I don't know if that's vandalism. Something a crazy person would do. And I also took a really cool photo on the trail with the light on the tree. I'll show you. So the insight I had was that another term for mania is prolonged spontaneous celebration. Because in the videos from July 8th, I was talking about celebration, and mania is like a prolonged celebration. It's celebrating life and celebrating each moment, and what kind of life does that unfold? And at this point in time, I'm really not able to embody that. Partly, I feel it's financial, and maybe I'm making that up. Maybe that's not true. Oh, this leaf just came to join me. So yeah, I like that prolonged, spontaneous celebration. So like usual, I'm a bit all over the place, and I don't think that's really going to change. What I'm seeing that is possible as being more linear is creating the online structure, as well as harvesting some of the videos and writing down some of the stuff that I said, and using that to create a blurb to go with the video post, which would help to make it a bit more searchable and things, because I was looking up how to drive traffic to a website, because I don't really have any traffic. So those are things that would be good to learn, especially because this sharing is a worldwide internet thing. Not because it's special, but just because that is how it's set up. So I could put all the videos up there, but if they're not able to be found or seen in some way, then it's a waste of time. So I need to learn those things, and I think those are good skills to have. And if some kind of monetizing thing comes out of it, that'd be great, because I spend a lot of my money on this kind of stuff. You know, buying the external battery pack so I can make videos outside and be in nature, and buying the external hard drive for this, and I'm going to pay $120 a year for that mailbox so I can do the mailing list, and $150 for that private video plugin, and I've done that all along. So it's not just about wanting to have things, it's about wanting to keep creating this. And I think I need to just create it and not feel the money strain thing, because I usually operate on my line of credit anyway, and just hope that it eventually works out and works itself out. So yeah, I think I'm just seeing the fact that I need to create abundance, and since I'm not going to share this until I know that the micronutrients can really support me to keep going, then I may as well learn those things in the meantime and see what happens. Not because this is about money, it's about, can I stay off the psych meds? Can I operate on micronutrients? And now that I've done that so far, can I design a life of my dreams? Because being in that state of map consciousness feels like one is living in the life of one's dreams. But then one realizes, well, hey, that was a temporary state. So how to make that actual. And along the way, I've explored different things, and I've learned that right now, at least, I really have to do things and learn things for myself. I don't have the money to get outside help. People aren't necessarily interested or have the time to help, which is completely understandable. So I have to learn these things for myself, and I've been putting it off, and I'm seeing a lot of ways to do things, which is kind of cool. I am interested in learning it, especially now that I have something that I feel I want to share, because I feel that if it's done the opposite way, where I'm just doing it to try to create a structure to make money, then whatever it is I'm sharing is pretty superficial. But I've created this 400 video thing, and there's a lot to it. Even just in harvesting those 2 videos, there was a lot. I said a lot, and being at the perspective now and hearing it, there's elements I feel like, oh, okay, I need to create that still, and there's elements where I feel like, wow, I've transcended that, I've done that. So again, it's not about talking about, oh, first I'm going to do this step, and then this step, and this step. It's talking about everything from the mundane daily to the biggest vision, one sentence after another. And by doing that, the brain isn't really tethered to any particular thing, and who knows what will turn out to unfold. So yeah, this next part is creating that linear structure, and maybe I won't harvest that many videos, but I do want to listen to at least the first 10 to see what the heck I said. There's already one thing I said that I might want to edit out, but I might just leave it. We'll see. It depends, again, on how I decide to share. Because I say a lot of things, and there's some things I probably wouldn't necessarily want to say in public, but for people who get the point of what I'm doing, which is just talking openly, and who have been in those states themselves where they can just talk and talk and talk and have lots of ideas and insights, from the most ridiculously lame to seemingly profound and genius, then it's for people who get that, not for people who want to judge individual statements or not understand the context and background from where people who go into these states of consciousness come from. So blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to keep track of the books that I mention, and then maybe put those Amazon affiliate links. And it's not about, oh, read these books. These are the books that I've read, and I feel they add to this new consciousness, this trans consciousness, this neurotribe. They really resonate, especially when extrapolating to one's own context. So it's just like somebody might look at a business model and use that kind of model in order to create a completely different business that has nothing to do with the content, but looking at the structure and the context is helpful. And that's a compliment. So reading some of these books can be helpful to get the brain thinking in terms of new possibilities. So it seems like it's going to seem like I'm going to try to make money, and I am, because again, I'm not going to publish the results early. The results are being on micronutrients only for 9 months, and that would show me that even if I do go into crisis after that, the micronutrients have done just as good a job in recent history as the medical system. So what can I do in the meantime? And my living situation isn't perfect, so I need to create something completely different. And that's another reason why I couldn't sleep, is that I did see some new possibilities, and I managed to do the Patreon thing late, and then I managed to do that email thing. And these are things that I have on my list of things to do that I just did. And I feel like now is the time to stop making a spreadsheet about, oh, I could do this and this and this, but just keep doing things. And the trouble is I forget what I did, or I forget what I want to do. But if I just keep doing and doing and doing, then I'll have a context of overall what I'm doing, so I'll know what to do within that structure. It's similar to creating insights from insights and extrapolations from extrapolations, but this is actually acting to create some kind of structure. And I feel like that's something that happens in map consciousness. We go into this hyper insightful state, and then we start trying to act and do something based on what we're thinking and feeling and seeing and having insights about, and then that's when it gets all chaotic. So I've created all these insights, And now I feel like since that energy can move through me, now it's safer to create some kind of something in actuality. Because before it was just creating insights in my mind to be the context to crowd out the memes of psychiatry. So can I now crowd out the structure of society and having to go back and get a 9-to-5 job or something, which usually just lands me at the psych ward? So this isn't about being lazy. This is about, if I go back into that, it could really be bad. And even the little bit of peer support-ish stuff, I'm thinking of dabbling in, mainly because I do need some money to keep creating this, and it's part-time and it'll give just a bit of extra money. That could be dicey. I don't know. It could be good though, because I'll be around people and at least able to witness some of what's going on and consider more, and I love everyone that I meet who are peers. So yeah, lots to think about, lots to consider. And now I'm seeing, harvesting the videos, the online structure, continuing to talk to myself about this process. Dialogue is changing. I want to start to create more fun videos. I talked more about fun and laughter in those initial videos that I watched from July of last year, and I still haven't really connected with that again. And I feel like that's going to be challenging. Partly because here I am on the outside of the system, and seeing everyone and what's happening to them inside the system is really sad. I don't know if I've seen even one person that I knew from before I went to California doing physically, spiritually, mentally, everything better than before I left. Everyone looks either worse off physically, or it's just sad, for God's sakes. So yeah, I just want to make the most out of sharing this when I do share it, and make it so that if I was able to create a lot of abundance, then I could really not just buy gadgets to keep yammering onto myself, but create a place for people to go to taper off meds safely, or create amounts of money, a fund where people can go on to Hardy Nutritionals, because initially they won't be able to afford it, but when they get their life back in order, then and connect with their gifts and move into their creativity, or go back to 9-to-5 and whatever they want, go back to the career they had before they were labeled, or anything, then they can make the money and pay for it themselves, and maybe contribute to the fund and support the next person to do the same. There's so many possibilities. And I was even seeing that structure the very first time I was in map consciousness, of investing, say, $10,000 in someone, maybe somebody with a label, and getting them things like Hardy Nutritionals and a few things that they decide. Self-direction, really. Like, we can do self-direction and create a self-direction system without waiting for the mental health system to do it for us. And then saying that we have to be on medications in order to be able to access that, and then that would limit the life that we're able to create and unfold, so the self-direction wouldn't even be as good. Maybe they'll allow us to self-direct off meds, and if we say, well, I don't want the money for the drugs, I want the money for the micronutrients, maybe they'll allow that, but there's no guarantees. So I'd like to say that if I do create some kind of abundance, I just really want to help people. And I do want to help myself first, because depending on what energy level I can get to, that will change the level of effect and helpfulness I'm able to have. So say, for example, I get some money and I start eating raw vegan, and I start traveling and talking to people around the country and around the states about what's going on at their awesome respites, and maybe tell them about micronutrients and how they've helped me. And so the life that I want to live is going to cost some money initially. And what can I give that's not money? I can donate blood, which I have an appointment to do soon. And I remember going to the Conscious Life workshop with Steve Pavlina 2 years ago, and he talked a lot about how he's created so much social value that he can go almost anywhere in the world and have a couch to sleep on, or a friend to talk to, or something. My throat's getting dry and I'm starting to cough. This isn't good. I want to talk more. So it'd be cool if it was something similar. So I could actually be kind of shooting myself in the foot by trying to create this little structure that could be monetized slightly. And rather than putting it out there and just not worrying about what's going to happen. But again, I'm waiting for the 9 months results on the micronutrients. And I just realized that the other day, that I am waiting for that result. And then go from there. Because that's the point, is really transcending the system. And in the meantime, can I design my life? Can I see if there is a way to create some kind of monetization? And once I learn about all that, perhaps then just paying someone to actually make a nice looking website, as opposed to having this piece of crap where I started putting books as Amazon associate links and they're not even beside each other, like down the page like this. It looks really stupid, as if anybody is going to click on that. But it's just learning, and it could be kind of fun. And I'm seeing that once I set up this mailbox and things like that, it's possible that I don't even need to be at home. I can move around and continue to harvest some of this, and maybe I'll stop making videos so I don't have so much to upload, so I don't have to worry about internet. I can listen to the audios, harvest them, and then post things through the private video. All those things don't take very much data, and I might be able to do everything on the new iPhone 8. So I am really excited about the possibilities. I'm just waiting for things to unfold, and getting over a cold and PMS and So yeah, I can't really imagine myself harvesting all 400 videos. Maybe, we'll see. If I stop making videos with myself and decide to harvest the videos and then maybe write a book from the videos or a little manual or something. There's so much. It's actually the trouble of there's so much, I don't know what is best to do. So part of it is playing around with different ways to harvest the dialogue I've created in order to see what I enjoy the most, and then leave the rest to others if there is any kind of collaboration there at some other point. There's a little bug. And things that I want to buy. There's this really cool of vegan barefoot shoes, Vivo barefoot shoes, which are shoes that are good for your feet. They allow your toes to spread, and they're vegan, waterproof, warm. And my feet get really cold in the winter, and shoes are not something that can be bought at Value Village. That's where I buy all the rest of my clothes for super cheap. And things like shoes or a jacket, I do need to invest in some good shoes, but it's hard to spend that $200 when I'm planning on spending the money on the mailbox and spending the money on getting this private embedded video thing. So I think in this next week I'll feel a lot better though, because I'll have a better sense of what's going on with work. And I do feel in my heart though that I do need my time to just keep creating and living within little means for now. And it really does take a lot of my time and energy to do this, and I want to keep doing it. Hello, little green bug. Using a macro lens. I had to whip out my macro lens because I saw a little green bug. The other thing I was thinking about was how we could write a book together. Harvest the dialogue, add other people's stuff, because other people have just as much as I do. I've put it into a lot of video, but some of it is really common stuff, common themes, common ways to think that we've likely just not shared with each other. So I don't see it as my stuff or what have you. Yeah, so if there are a few people interested in creating a book together, that would be cool, because I am not good with the linear stuff. So if people want to watch it and then create a book, and go for it. It'd be cool to create one together. Or maybe the book is just life and how we're able to unfold something and co-create something. I really don't know. So this will be about sharing the dream of living beyond the medical model with others. And right now I'm living beyond it, but I'm not really living. I'm kind of not sure what's going on. I don't feel like I'm alive. And again, this shows that it's not a matter of just taking micronutrients and sitting in a corner and feeling blissed out like that for the rest of life. Life still requires participation, and it actually would require me to deeply consider in what ways I want to participate with life moving forward, because there's a lot of things that I just removed from my reality and am negating participating with. So that leaves room for new elements, but I'm feeling challenged to explore what that is, and a lot of it will be taken up with figuring out how to share this, or how I might want to, and do I want to continue talking to myself. I thought I was going to change the dialogue at video 400. I was going to do a silly video that I might still do, and that could be part of it too, doing some silly videos. But this next while might be talking about some of the things that I'm exploring with this online stuff, because I think it's important to share that part too, because when people get to the point where they're beyond the medical model, then what? Does that mean that we want to go back to living a mediocre life, or do we want to learn what tools we can use to really create the life of our dreams, which is what that state of consciousness was giving us a blueprint of and inviting us into in the first place. So going back on the path to mediocrity is only going to lead to feeling mediocre and not the greatest. I was starting to try to make some contrived videos. I was trying to make a video of reaching out, like, hey everyone, I created this dialogue, do you want to help me harvest it? Or things like a disclaimer, don't take this as medical advice, I'm not a doctor, don't listen to what I say because I don't remember what I say, and I'm not speaking in terms of giving myself advice, though even in the first two videos I did give some advice, like, do nice things for yourself, but that's pretty harmless. And even if I'm seemingly giving advice to others, I'm really talking myself into those things. I'm giving advice like it might be to others, but I need to take that advice. And I heard a quote recently saying, wisdom is taking your own advice. So this is me giving advice to myself, whether I say me, you, her, they, whatever. It's just me talking to myself, and that was the point of the disclaimer. And I'll share those videos. I made them the other day, but I'll share them after, because it's not necessarily about the date order per se. And then I made another video that was supposed to be video 20, and I don't know if I'll keep it as video 20, but I'll put those in there just as, oh, these are me trying to make some kind of video that is put in there somewhere, as opposed to just rambling on in date order. And yeah, I'll just share those. And I was feeling like it would be good to practice pretending like I'm reaching out, because that way maybe I'll be able to speak in that way, as opposed to I'm really good at speaking with myself. And I find sometimes when I'm around other people, I'm kind of blank and I don't know what to say. People that are inspirational say inspirational things, but I don't know what to say because I've been talking to myself about mental health, and now I don't want to talk about that. But I think I need to practice embodying being inspirational or something. I don't know. God, who knows? And part of it is saying something. Sometimes I'm a bit of a dud, and perhaps one can tell that by what I talk to myself about or how I sound, or it's kind of serious and lame, and I don't want to be a dud anymore. I'm definitely not a dud when I'm in that state of map consciousness, so I might want to practice speaking like a manic might, just saying things and being open and not being afraid to influence people. I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird place to be in. You got to say something. So why am I not creating more powerful words and things to say? So that might be something that I explore too, is creating a speech, or maybe not just creating a speech, but doing little inspirational videos to practice that part. And the good thing, I think, will be that it won't just be me eventually sharing these inspirational 2-minute videos or 5-minute videos that make it look like I was always that way. But it'll show the whole process of just rambling to myself, to maybe one day being able to speak from a place of power, and in mid-February give a speech or a talk of, this is where I was, this is the journey, and this is where I am now, on micronutrients. I've designed the life of my dreams, living in freedom, blah blah blah. And maybe it'll take longer than to February, I don't know, but what I'm saying is I need to practice embodying those things, and I'll share those along the way, because I've talked about not being contrived, and I don't think that is contrived, because I've been in that space where in mania I'm different, I'm charismatic, I'm vibrant, I'm a lot of things. So if I don't speak in those ways, then that's not going to get created as brain cells in my brain. I've created a lot of good brain cells for droning on to myself, but what about if I was to pretend that I am reaching out to others? And one of the ones I created, which was the video 21, I thought I ended up saying some stuff that was good for reaching out to others. So I'll just put those in there, and maybe one day I'll feel like, okay, now it's time to start a new dialogue. Here are all the old ones for people who have a million hours to watch someone drone on, or here are the more succinct ones one day. When I know what the succinct process even is, I really don't know. And one day maybe dialoguing with others, and recording those online, or going to see people, creating a documentary. There's so many possibilities, and that's why I feel like it's important to do this work that I'm doing in the next months and continue to work hard on it. It'd be easier if I had my own space to set it up, but I can't use that as an excuse. And I created kind of a cool document through Dropbox Paper. I like that platform, and I posted the link on an upcoming blog post in mid-October, when all of the posts that I created in California and dated for 6 months later start expiring. So I will continue to create those little bits of blog posts, and it's practice, really. This isn't about the refined final product. This is really practicing all of these elements and discovering these elements that might really be in alignment with that energy. So creating this technology as an extension of this process. One day I imagine doing more live videos. The practicing speaking to others would be helpful for doing the live videos. It'd be cool to just do live videos and not do this talking to myself, writing stuff down, editing. I do want to move away from that for sure by mid next year, I would think. This is the process of creating the Synchroversity learning community. I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm talking about. No idea what I'm saying. And I'm so forgetful. And that's why I feel like if I work at this daily, it'll be a part of me, and it won't be a matter of trying to remember. Just like I don't have to try to remember to talk to myself or edit the videos, because I've done that process so much. So this is moving that into a different domain, that it's so much a part of me that this challenge of forgetfulness isn't a problem. And actually designing a life where one can deeply forget everything. That's kind of the point. Making these technological things into a skill and then forgetting all of the rest, forgetting it all. I want to forget. And Krishnamurti talks about a non-accumulative perception and action. And I feel that's another thing to move deeply into. Non-accumulative perception and action. He also called it unpremeditated art. Not premeditating, not accumulating, and then premeditating. Perception and action. And it's an art. Perhaps it's the art of living. The art of living beyond problems, perhaps. And this is what I'm wondering about. So if I feel like this financial thing is a problem, making it so it's not. And I feel like I might be able to figure that out. And lately I've been watching a few videos by Tim Ferriss, and I was thinking about not just watching motivational and inspirational videos daily, but making them. And I guess that's what I've been doing, but I could give them a different tone, which is less of the droning on and more fun and excitement. And I perhaps need to create that. And there are challenges to that for me right now. And that's okay. I think it's good that that's not really there, because then I can sit down, continue to be serious, and channel more energy into these online structures that I've been talking about. And this is me just trying to figure this out and talk to myself about this and talk myself into things and talk myself out of things and stuff like that. And can I go from a protective bubble of context that I've created to a creative bubble of embodied action? And I might want to create an intro video to the Synchroversity learning community. Can I communicate to my fullest expression? Can I have a non-accumulative fullest expression? And I realize too, what things, if I set them up, I'll never have to set them up again. So if I fully do my blog, all the elements that I'm finding to integrate into it, I never have to set that up again. Or I can just say to someone, can you make this look nice now? Or redo it all, but with these elements that I know that I like. Or add the elements that I don't know how to do myself and will never figure out, and someone can do that part. So, yeah. And I mentioned a lot of things in those 2 July 8th videos that I watched from last year, including transforming into my artist self, and thinking that at some point I might start wearing more makeup and just being more expressive, and because that's a theme that comes up, make myself into the artist version of myself, and all of life being an art, not painting and things like that, but every aspect of life, and making it fun and playful. So I found some vegan, cruelty-free, healthy-ish type makeup, and I think that'd be a cool part to show too, is here I am, this is what I look like, and what can I have fun with? And people do that all the time, for sure. Yet I don't necessarily have a full urge to do that. But I was thinking, hey, I could get pink highlights in my hair, or I could just be a little more edgy as a physical acknowledgement of that playful energy. And I don't know if it's necessary. It's something that I've considered. So I feel like this process of self-dialogue is really chaotic and all over the place, and talking about one thing and then talking about a completely different thing, and then I'm back to the one thing I was just talking about that I forgot I was talking about, repeating myself. It's so non-linear, and this process helps me to have all that non-linear energy somewhere to go. And it's not just something like dissipating energy by punching a pillow alone in a room, but doing a process that could one day be shared, because this chaotic energy does want to reach out and share. It wants us to move in new ways, design a new life, explore, figure out what's right for us. And since it's not really safe to do that in a daily way, just wake up in the morning and leave the door and see what happens. By having this process, I can have that chaos going and have it channeled into this particular thing, so then I can get dressed, I can make food, I can interact with people, because I have a way to get this chaos to move, and it doesn't as much manifest in my daily life because I have this process, and it's not just me talking to myself in a corner, but it's something that can be shared because this energy wants to create something to be shared, and this might not even be the thing, but it's at least allowing the flow of that energy to keep going. Similar to people having creative outlets, so they can do their 9-to-5 job, they have their sport on the weekend, or they have their painting on the weekend. This is my sport, this is my painting that keeps me able to move about in daily life. But I'm not sure how many of us ever really find a process that can do that for us, because we're so busy trying to manage. Or people might think that this energy shouldn't be humored in any way, shape, or form, and any strange thoughts or abstract ideas or something not to humor and talk about. But I'm feeling like the opposite is true. It's moving with that process of the brain, not resisting it, moving against it, trying to manage it. The thing is, by allowing it to move, one can then manage the areas of life that one needs to manage. And I don't know if this is true, but it seems to be somewhat true. So yeah, being all over the place within this interaction, me and my iPhone, and then in other domains of life, being able to be more linear in those domains. I imagine that if I didn't have this process on a daily basis, and then all my energy was diverted into managing my life and keeping symptoms away, and any thought or insight or anything outside my normal thinking would be, oh my gosh, it could be a symptom, I'm worried about that, and not engaging it, then pushing it away all the time, it builds up until it eventually overflows and then turns into something like a so-called mania. I feel like doing this every day is like having a little mini mania and then going home and doing the laundry, as opposed to waiting till it overflows and then ending up on the other side of the world in a few days or something. I've never done that. So yeah, I feel like it's important to allow that energy to move and do some of what it's trying to do. And I think that's partly true because I've experienced how sometimes people are around, and if I'm thinking I want to talk with myself, I'm a little bit more short with people because I have an idea, an agenda of what I want to do, and maybe I don't have the time alone to do it, and so my interactions with people are strained. So that can be a detriment of this. But then at the same time, if that creative energy or chaotic energy has nowhere to go, then I'm just being grumpy and moody to people all the time, and I don't know why. It's not I'm being grumpy and moody or a little bit short, and not really grumpy and moody, just feeling things internally like I want to go create this. Whereas if I don't know what it is that that energy wants to do, if there's no outlet for it, then it just translates into being grumpy and moody and all these things, and then one's said to have a mood disorder when really this energy wants to create something else, but we haven't found a process of allowing that energy to move. So then when we're going about our daily life, then we're fine. It's just like how some people, it's just a form of stress relief or pressure relief, and we all know there's a lot of examples of that out there. And for people who have this type of chaotic creative energy, just going and eating a cookie or going to jerk off in the shower isn't going to do it. And sometimes people even get hypersexual because this energy has to go somewhere. And so if we don't create something for it to go, then it's going to be translated into more of that which we're already really neurologically programmed to be, which is people are moody in general. But when there's this big energy, we're going to be even moodier, we're going to be even hornier, we're going to be even more after pleasure. because it'll just be channeled into the channels that are already there. So we need to create other channels for this energy to go, and that's part of what I've done by talking to myself so much. And I made a note to continue that mailbox metaphor I mentioned the other day about how I was trying to open the mail slot in the mailbox in the community, and it wouldn't turn, and I was trying to get the key to turn, and I didn't realize I'd walked by my correct mailbox, because there's several of them with the same numbers, but it's mailbox 1, 2, 3, 1 to whatever, etc. And I was thinking about how before I was really passionate about mental health, redesign in the system and change, and that was my focus. And now being outside of that and being on the micronutrients and seeing how that potentially changes everything for a person. And I'm not saying that it's going to work for everybody, but I feel if it works for me, it can work for other people. And then what is the need to focus on system change if people can self-direct themselves outside of all of it? So why would I go back to focusing on changing the system when individuals can change and move themselves out of all of that? It takes a lot of effort to move out of that vortex, that abyss. And hopefully when I share this, it might help some people to get out of that. I don't think I'm saying much that people like me don't already know or haven't already thought to themselves. And I noticed in the 2 July videos that I extrapolated, they were the 3rd or 4th video that I did, and not much has changed in terms of how I'm thinking and seeing, and I've said it in a million different ways, but I think I'm saying the same thing in every video. And so if it's this little theme of insights and feelings and different things that I talk about, and I've extrapolated that 1,000 times, it's still just this core thing. So I feel like a lot of us have this core thing in common. We could express it in a million different ways or share that we had this experience or that experience. But when we get into the underlying meaning of it all, it comes back to this core of something. So I feel like people like me have a very similar core, and then it's expressed in a million ways. And I've expressed it in so many ways, but I'm saying the same thing. So a person might watch one video or all of them and notice, wow, I didn't really say too much different along the way. And so I'm saying that if it's just me saying the same thing over and over again, other people like me might have that same core that then they can go and express in a million ways, or just listen to how I've expressed it and then be able to, I don't know what, maybe unfold a slightly different trajectory of a life that is a little bit happier, a little bit healthier, and that's what I would wish for people. I feel really happy when people make positive changes for themselves and treat themselves well. And in saying that, when I've done the best in my life during this journey after being labeled, it's when I've been treating myself the best, when I've been eating a lot of raw vegan food, when I've been eating some superfoods, when I've been doing all these things. So when I talk about needing some money to live that way, that's actually when my energy is able to fully express itself, because I'm taking my own advice. I'm doing things to make my body healthier, which makes me happier, and then that health radiates. People notice that. I have better conversations. I'm able to connect with people more. It's easier to connect with people based on health, like food, than it is on all this abstract stuff that I've talked about. And in the past, it's been really interesting for me to study nutrition and health, and maybe one day I'll just talk about that stuff and none of the mental health stuff. And so in saying that, it'd be good to do that for myself and treat my body really well, and spend $600 to $1,000 a month on food only, because then I'm fully expressing myself. And if that is one of my needs, then it is one of my needs, and I can't deny that. Yesterday, I made carrot ginger juice, for the first time. I bought some carrots from Costco. They weren't organic, but they were local, and made carrot juice, and I'll probably do that again today. So that was something healthy. Yesterday, all I had was carrot juice. I wasn't feeling the greatest, and I felt like I need to fast a little bit. Today, all I've had is kombucha so far. So, yeah, this is treating my body by not eating so much rice. I eat a lot of rice because it's cheap, and I don't think that's helping my cause. So I'm trying to be cheap with that stuff, but then I'm wondering, well, where's the energy and where's the happiness when I'm not doing those things that when I do them, I'm the happiest, and it doesn't matter if I'm talking to myself and making videos and meaning. Just doing those things for my body creates a different life, and I keep forgetting about that. And it's lovely to think, oh, it's good to be cheap on those elements, but maybe I need to move into not being cheap on that and just going into debt and seeing what I can create for myself, even going into debt, and hoping I catch up later. I did go to Costco and I got olives and I got kombucha, which I don't usually buy, and celery and more ketogenic type foods. And I even got avocados, and I'm letting those ripen. So I was going to wait till I ate up the bag of rice and all that Indian sauce, but I'm feeling like I need to move into treating my body better. And then that will likely give me a lot more energy to do all these other things that I'm wanting to do. And also remembering how much I do love health and nutrition. So one day maybe I'll work more in that domain than all this mental health stuff, because I have said this is passive advocacy. So maybe one day I don't even have to talk about this stuff ever again. And can I bring my enthusiasm in dialogue with myself to daily life, or be more enthusiastic in dialogue to be more enthusiastic in daily life? I need to create this in my nervous system. My nervous system is back to a bit of a blank slate. It's not that which it was for the last 6 years on meds, and it's not part of that life, and it's not the one that I had before I was ever labeled with a mental illness. So I'm kind of a blank canvas, kind of wondering what the heck, but I need to create myself. I need to recreate myself. I need to rediscover myself again. And I've talked about that since the very beginning, and continuing with that process. And I also thought about playing the lotto every week for an entire year, to give the universe an opportunity to give me abundance, and doing different things to invite synchronicity, like synchronizing by leaving altruism quarters or playing the lotto, which you can't win if you don't play. And we'll see. And I came across a document posted on the wall by the Health Authority for Mental Health saying something about these are the ways people should be treated when they're clients of the mental health system or something. It says individuals receiving services will blah 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 blah, and then the one that caught my attention was individuals receiving services will be informed about all aspects of illness and treatment, including risks, outcomes, and alternatives. And this is an interesting statement to me, because for one, we're not given information about alternatives. We're not told about micronutrients. We're not told about medication-free respites. We're not told that those things are going to be created one day, or that they even think that they should. So we're not given options of alternatives. And if there are alternatives, we have to find them ourselves a lot or pay for them ourselves. But we'll get the medicalized, pathologizing stuff that guarantees one will continue to live in that framework nearly forever, probably, most likely. And Also, we're not informed about the risks of treatment. We're told about very few side effects. We're not given a printout with all the side effects of all the meds that the doctor's about to prescribe us. The psychiatrist doesn't go over that with us. Maybe a pharmacist might go over some of it when we're already prescribed it, but it's not part of the planning conversation. We're not told about informed consent in terms of how Dr. Kelly Brogan talks about iatrogenic illness, meaning one can develop symptoms and problems from being on the meds and trying to taper off of them that were never there before, that are a result of the medication, not of worsening of one's mental illness or anything like that. So we're not told about iatrogenic illness. We're not told if you're on this for more than a couple weeks, your body will be very addicted. It'll be very challenging to come off. You'll have symptoms that make it seem like your illness is getting worse, but it's because your body is adapted to these meds. So we're not told about the risks. We're told that the risks are higher of not being on the meds. That's kind of all we're told, and that we have to take them. And so anyways, didn't like that statement because it's not true. Another one, it says, be engaged in treatment options where and when appropriate, or treatment planning or something. And who determines when and where it's appropriate? Obviously, in the psych ward, we have absolutely no power. And receiving us in this powerless way nearly guarantees that we'll remain powerless or with very little power for the rest of our lives. And thinking that we need these treatments that we were given in that vulnerable and powerless state. And then the first one in the next section, I'll show you the photo, says something about we'll have a range of treatment options to personal needs and desires and blah, blah, blah. And to me that sounds like self-direction, but we don't have a full range of services to all of our desires. It's vocational, some psychosocial rehab with a bit of recreation, a bit of this, and it's not really self-directed. It's not really individualized. It's, well, here's this group. Do you want to go to it? Like, this is what's available. And hopefully one day it'll be self-directed and people will get the amount of money they need and work to have just a very individualized thing. And maybe there wouldn't even be mental health services per se, but people would just be reintegrated back into the community right away because they're able to select exactly what they want to do. So that was an annoying poster. And I listened to a little bit of an Alan Watts clip the other day, and I love Alan Watts. I think he's one of the best. And he said, figure out a way that you can get paid for playing. And that is genius, and that's what I need to do. Because I don't think this self-dialogue is me playing, but I might be able to continue this process till mid-February and design a different life in the meantime, and then maybe get paid for playing. I don't know. I really don't know. Speaking of synchronicity, the way I found out about the Hearty nutritional supplement was kind of a synchronicity. It starts many years ago when I was sharing my story at a family mental health group, and a woman came up to me after and we exchanged information, and I think at that point I'd already heard about EM Power Plus, and she was maybe telling me a bit about micronutrients or something, but I was already aware of it. And then one time I was at a wellness show and I saw my friend at a chiropractic booth, and she had someone in the chair in front of her because she was talking about this spine checkup thing that people do at wellness shows and things. And I took a picture of her and I sent it to her. And then sometime later, I don't even know when, I was going through my pictures and I saw that picture, and who was sitting in the chair but the lady who I met at that mental health talk that I gave. And so I think I emailed her and said, whoa, look at this, you're in this picture that I took. I didn't even notice that it was you in the chair. And so we talked, and then before I left for California, I emailed her asking about micronutrients because she had told me about a different company that maybe would be a little bit better for me because I was on lithium, and the Hearty Nutritionals product has a bit of lithium in it. And so she told me about the product, and than I knew. So when I went to California and I realized that, hey, I got to taper off this stuff instead of taking more Seroquel indefinitely, then I was able to contact Hardy Nutritionals and get that product, and it was and is really helpful. So yeah, that was quite synchronistic, and a long journey of that. And so I was thinking about that synchronistic trajectory of events, and I know, really sadly, this person's adult child is stuck in a mental health facility that he can't get out of. So he doesn't even have the option to take micronutrients, and neither do some of my friends who are getting injected. So I feel like it would be cool to create a documentary to try to help raise awareness of these people that are stuck in these places. And that would be to continue with the synchronicity. I met somebody who is a documentary filmmaker when I was selling my last iPhone, and turns out he studied Krishnamurti too, so that was synchronicity, and blah blah blah. So there could be something there. And then, of course, to add more complications to everything, I started writing on paper again and thinking about writing a magical notebook, because I can't make videos on everything. So if I want to explore more of this magical element, perhaps writing it down and then maybe taking pictures and sharing the notebook and what I write to myself would be something else to do, because translating to video takes a long time. And I'm also finding that I sort of have a certain tone with myself in this medium. So the tone sometimes is different when I start writing in magical ways. It does become a little bit more inspirational to myself and then maybe others. So, for example, and I won't share all of this on video like this, but I wrote, when your synchronicity is active, start writing special messages to synchronize with and as my synchronicity as it is active. Seemingly mundane and meaningless synchronicity is a sign of what is operating. Egocentricity or synchronicity, write from synchronicity in order to be of that order, the order of synchronicity. We make it happen. That is our highest capacity. So this comes through me in writing, but I don't, unless I did like random live streams or something, it would be difficult for me to sit down and just say that stuff. And it's odd for me to look at it and then say it and then look at it and say it. It'd be cool to be able to speak in these ways all the time, and then that be that new expression I was talking about. But it comes through more in writing, and I don't know how well it translates to video. I could do that, but then it would be like, when your synchronicity is active, blah, blah, blah. It sounds a little bit like instructions, but it is instructions to myself, but I don't know if other people need to hear it. But there was a really weird synchronicity that made me write that down. There were these cute little cat wooden things on the table, and I took a picture of it. And it made me think of those Russian dolls that you can open up and put inside each other, and there's like one lady there, and you open them up and then you take them out separately and they're all beside each other. And I didn't really think the cats did that, and I didn't really look closely and think much of it. And I took this picture at 11:23 a.m. or something, and then I walked out of the room and I came back, and Barney the dinosaur was on TV, and this was 3 minutes later. And all of a sudden the kids on the show were with Barney, and they were learning about these nesting dolls. And they had that woman doll with all the little dolls inside, and they were taking it apart. So I took a video of that. this is a weird synchronicity. I was just looking at these cats, thinking they were those ones that went inside each other. Then I thought they weren't. And then I looked at the TV and Barney has these same things going on. And it turns out these are nesting cats, just like the nesting dolls. That was bizarre. And one could think that's not really that exciting. And it's not. But it's so random and it's so, like, what are the odds of that? And that's sort of the point. It's like, what are the odds of that? But it was there for me to notice the meaning and the connection and how, what are the odds of that? So what I'm trying to say is that synchronicity is always operating. But if I'm at home living this sort of sheltered life, then the synchronicities are going to happen, but they're going to be like, oh, well, that was just interesting. It doesn't really mean anything. It's synchronistic, it's random, it's kind of strange, but it doesn't have any meaning really beyond that. But what I'm saying is it's pointing to the fact that that is still operating. So it'll happen wherever. It'll happen in the mundane, it'll happen in the profound. My wrist is getting sore from holding my phone. And I took a picture of the cats because I thought they were really cute. So it was a mysterious coincidence. Not really that exciting, but again, just a hint that the mystery is still there. It's always operating. As part of lifestyle design, I want to go look at camper vans. So it means we can see meaning, we can link meaning, we can make meaning, and there is a mystery there. So whether it's nesting cats and Barney the dinosaur, or meeting someone who seems like Jesus, it's all the same mystery, and it is us who puts a value on the mystery, like this is a better mystery than the other, but it's all mysterious. So can I make this next year, and that year mark is September 11th, more about synchronicity and magic, and can I design a life where there's more possibility for synchronicity beyond noticing and taking a moment to take a picture of these cute little wooden cats because I think they're cute, which then created the opportunity for the synchronicity with Barney the dinosaur to noticing something else. And here I am judging that that's not as cool as a more mysterious coincidence. But I think what I'm seeing now too is that by stopping to notice and take a picture of the cats and acknowledge them and they were cute, giving attention to something, noticing, perception, synchronizing with the cats, then created the synchronicity. So if I would have just looked at them and not given them more than a few moments thought, that would have never happened. So it's the noticing, it's the stopping to pay attention, it's the appreciating of something beyond just not even noticing it or beyond just a passing thought that allows the universe to say, okay, well now I'm going to synchronize with that. So it's what we're paying attention to, it's what we're giving our attention to, it's what we're paying with our attention that is then going to synchronize with us. So I don't think that small example was to be anything meaningful, like, oh, now I need to watch Barney the dinosaur. God, I had to turn it off. I couldn't find the remote. I had to unplug the Apple TV. It was so bad. But so that would be putting wrong meaning on it, thinking I have to watch Barney the dinosaur. But that example, and even just unfolding it with myself now, makes me realize somewhat of the mechanism. So even today here, being like, I'm going to talk to myself in the park, and I wasn't sure if I was going to, noticing the inchworm, noticing the hummingbird, noticing the green bug, and taking a picture and taking time to appreciate it and acknowledge nature and beauty, then allows more of that to synchronize with me, and then I start to feel better, if you want to call it better. So what does this mean? Meaning can be created. What is meaningful is created by our perception, by what we pay attention to. What we pay attention to is what is meaningful to us. And then the universe responds in kind. So we create what's meaningful with our perception and what we pay attention to. And these are important elements. It's important to learn about perception, which is part of meaning, which is part of synchronicity, which is part of synchronizing. All of this is so important. So a year of magic and synchronicity, lifestyle design, perception, action. And I wrote, we aren't creating with that energy is the problem. We're ignoring the signs, we're ignoring the messages. We aren't creating perception with the meaning. We aren't seeing the meaning, we aren't creating the meaning. We're passing it off as meaningless. And I think that's the biggest mistake, is we pass all that off as meaningless and then go back to what we've been told is normal. Can we go from manic to magic? And I think the manic part is, again, the overflow of it and not participating with seeing meaning and creating perception in daily life. And that's part of what the self-dialogue does too, is it's participating with seeing meaning, making meaning, creating perception, which is all part of the process of what so-called mania thrusts us into. So when we keep that part of our brains active on a daily basis and not ignore it, the energy doesn't come through and burst through at some point and destroy the mechanistic routine that we're trying to overlay over top of that energy. Mania is an introduction, induction, immersion to the mystery and magic of the universe. We have that magic power. How can we notice that magic power? How can we ground it? Not getting freaked out by the magic or surprised. It just feels normal, so the nervous system doesn't react in fear, which is the self-program of ego logic, or egogic, which is a word, I just made it up. Reasserting itself. Be undisturbed, unperturbed by the perturbations in the laws of physics, glitches in technology, etc. Be not alarmed by the special messages on TV. The brain is reawakening its power to infuse new meaning. And usually on TV right now, there's either police car chases or real estate. And the other day, the person watching, I don't know what they were watching, the sound wasn't even on, but it said, change the world on the bottom. And I think that was a little bit of a message for me. So I wrote that down because that was part of the magical notebook, making note of the magic in daily life and noticing that magic. And by noticing it and acknowledging it again, it's similar to taking a picture of the wooden cats. By taking the time to write it down, it's inviting more of that into life. It's inviting that to synchronize with my brain. It's inviting the universe to respond to that element in my being. And the other thing I was thinking about was how synchronicity is like sing and crow. And then I looked up Ni, N-I, and it stands for no idea. And that's something that I say to myself is, I have no idea, I don't know. And by that, I have a lot of ideas, and there's a lot of stuff that I could say. And the Ni symbol in Japanese is used to indicate destination or direction. And Ni in Sanskrit means down, back, into, in, within, except, always, prefixed either to verbs or nouns. In the latter case, it also has the meaning of negation or privation. I don't know what privation means, but negation, a lot of what I talk about with myself is negation. So I like this no idea, this negation, this destination or direction, and then city. So synchro-ni, city. Synchro-ni, city. And then of course I had to do an even better drawing where singing, that's a mouth, find by synchronicity, and sing, a mouth with the notes, and the crow, and the city. So yeah, I haven't gotten super far in that yet. And another synchronicity was I was at the fair and people were talking about how they got to see that famous crow that will just hang out with people and like sit with them and stuff. And I think it has a special person that it sits with and saying, oh, they're really smart and stuff. So that was cool. So I've created a lot of video with myself today. So much for stopping at 400 and doing more succinct videos that are topic based. I don't know if that's going to work with my brain, considering how I just unfolded that. This is how that chaotic energy gets moved and harnessed and harvested, and that way I can still do my daily life and do the linear things that I need to do. So probably just keep going, talking to myself until something changes, and yeah, not sure what that will be.